Jason Savage turned to Islam, and it solved every problem he had. But then he ran into a moderate imam who said he didn't believe in jihad. So he plotted to kill that moderate guy to show Islam is peaceful. That's why. It's This Week in Jihad, everyone. I am Robert Spencer. Over here we have the great David Wood. We are back after many, many important issues. It's an interesting thing, David. I just saw on the Twitter. I don't know if you saw this. This guy sent this to me. Now that I've mentioned it, I can't find it. Hang on. Have to follow through now. This guy, Etasimo, 1989. So heed this, Ya Kufar, Murtadun, and Munafikun. Whether you like it or not, whether you agree or not, the black banner of Tawheed is coming to your homes. We bring death to all Kufar who refuse to pay jizya to us. And we bring death to all Musrik who do not embrace Islam. And I thought, if this guy isn't putting me on here, I don't know. I don't understand, because I just spoke at James Madison University on Monday. And they said I was an extremist for not believing Islam is a religion of peace. So, kind of confused about this guy on the Twitter. But of course, you can't believe everything you can see on Twitter, right? He's probably a right-winger.
Yeah, he's probably some Trump supporter trying to cause confusion.
That's it, man. So, Jason Savage. Did you hear the Jason Savage story?
No, not a bit. Not a word.
Oh, well, he's in the poem this week, so I think I got to start with him. That's Jason right there. And hold up. Oh, whoa. What?
Is that a red beard?
That's a red beard, of course, because every convert to Islam in England is a ginger. I thought we knew that.
Ginger jihadis.
That's right. It's really wild how often that happens. But in any case, Jason Savage, he was just sent. What happened to him? Yeah, he was just jailed for life a few days ago, Friday, for plotting to kill an imam. And so since he's a convert to Islam, he must misunderstand Islam, because, of course, if he's plotting to kill an imam, he must not be a real Muslim, right?
Yeah, you'd have to say that, as long as you ignore the command in the Quran, Surah 9, verse 73, to wage jihad not only against unbelievers but also against hypocrites. So, assuming he didn't regard this Muslim imam as a hypocrite or an apostate for some reason, then yes, we can say this guy should not have been plotting that sort of thing. Poor ginger. Maybe the guy said something about his red beard.
Well, maybe that was it. Maybe it's the red beard. But what the Press Association of the UK says is that he planned to flatten a mosque in a terror attack. And he was plotting to stab an unnamed Islamic cleric who was, according to the Press Association, an outspoken critic of terrorism. And this guy from Small Heath, Birmingham. Do they say Birmingham in England, or is it like Birmingham or something?
Yeah,
you know?
it's probably something lame like Birmingham or something like that.
Oh, quite. Yes. In any case, he yes. Douglas Murray. Yes. The West Midlands Police said that Savage was convicted because he was filming reconnaissance video near a mosque on Wright Street, Small Heath, Birmingham, and he said that seems to be likely to be the best way to get away. Oh, he's probably not like that, right? He's going to say, that seems like the best way to get away. The police will probably come from that way. And
hey, governor.
So he said, he had adapted a knife. It doesn't explain how exactly he adapted the knife. But in any case, he adapted the knife for use in his jihad. I don't know if it was an X-Acto, probably bigger. And he said, just needs the means now. Ask Allah to give man the means, bro. And anyway, so he's plotting to kill this imam and to destroy not only the imam himself, but his bookstore and his mosque in Small Heath. Because even though this guy's a Salafi, this is one of the reasons why I think this dispute might have been over something else. But the official story is that Jason Savage is a Salafi. The imam's a Salafi, but he's a different kind of Salafi who says that Islamic terrorism is entirely incompatible with the true essence of Islam. And anyway, he's been in prison ever since he was arrested. Now he's sentenced to life. And he said he's been posting. Now, what I don't understand, David, is the guy's in prison. Why is he posting on social media? But anyway, did you post on... Well, I guess there wasn't social media.
No, but Robert, that is becoming increasingly common. Inmates have more access to the internet now. And so I think that's going to kind of vary from place to place. But like my brother, so he got out last year, but he could actually send me messages like emails and stuff like that. So I don't know if he had access to social media, but he could send emails and stuff. So they had access to computers.
Well, Savage was posting messages on social media saying he was delighted to hear prison staff had been stabbed up after a plot against Muslim inmates. And so anyway, he's a convert to Islam. He's in prison now for trying to kill an imam that he did not think was sufficiently or adequately or correctly Muslim.
And perfectly in line with Islam. If you've got Muhammad saying I've been made victorious with terror and so on, and clearly, I mean, when he's robbing the caravans of the pagans of Mecca, he's attacking their. Keep in mind, people in Mecca. You have your doubts about whether any of this is true, Robert. But even according to the story, Mecca, like, they don't have a lot. They're supposedly a trade hub. I agree there's some problems with that historically because it does not on the trade route. But anyway, according to the story, Mecca is this trade hub.
Right.
That's how they make their money. So whatever money you had, you would invest in the caravan that's going up, and they're going to trade some stuff. They're going to come back, and you're going to have a little bit more money. So any money you have, or anything you have, or any products you have, or anything you've been able to grow, or anything else, you put it in this caravan that takes your stuff away. What does Muhammad do? He starts robbing the caravans. What's that mean? Well, if I put everything I had on that caravan to go trade it and make some money, and this guy steals it, well, I'm going to starve. And so this is terrorism. Right? He's straight up terrorizing these people. And so the point is, if Muhammad funded his early campaigns through terrorism, and he said, I've been made victorious with terror, and you come along and say, no, terrorism has nothing to do with Islam, there's no connection at all, you're basically attacking Allah and Muhammad and the early Muslim community, and that is a quick way to get yourself labeled an apostate.
Yep. So the guy, he almost offed the imam. But instead, he's got prison dawah for decades to come, or at least 16 years. I think he'll be out in 16 years, probably even sooner if Britain becomes an Islamic state before that. Meanwhile, we got Hashem Abidi. And Hashem Abidi is the brother of was it Salman Abidi? I should get the story.
Is that the brother of the guy who attacked the concert?
Yeah, the Manchester Arena.
Probably looked familiar. Okay.
Yeah. And Hashem, Salman, it was Salman Abidi. But in any case, Hashem Abidi, he helped out his brother with the Manchester Arena jihad attack in which 22 people were killed. But this past week, he's in prison, and he attacked 3 prison officers with hot oil. And then, actually, he stabbed them first, and then threw the hot oil on them. Stabbed them with makeshift weapons. So,
wait, he did what now?
He stabbed them with makeshift weapons in prison. Three police officers in prison, and then threw hot oil on them.
Hot oil, yeah.
Burned them with hot oil.
Huh. Yeah, they called it stripper surprise in prison. I don't know what they call it in the UK, and I don't know what exactly they use. They called it stripper surprise because an inmate would get a hold of some floor stripper
Ah,
that they used to strip the floor, and you'd put some other stuff in there. They put like syrup and stuff in there. Anyway, they combine it all and then stick it in a microwave until it's boiling.
mm-hmm.
And then you just fling it in someone's face, and like their flesh is just like falling off as they're running around screaming and so on. So anyway, I never actually saw that happen. I heard about who it happened to. Yep,
Goodness.
they called it stripper surprise, not in the sense that Mohammed Hijab is a stripper, but like floor stripper again.
All right, so a lot of prison jihad this week. And you got to wonder what the Brits are thinking in allowing all this to happen and not doing a thing about it. Meanwhile, oh, this is misfiled. You know, David, I organize everything so well and then I do it wrong. It's amazing.
It is hard keeping a ton of stuff organized.
Another story out of Britain prisons this week is the story of Tommy Robinson, who has been, of course, raising awareness about Muslim rape gang activity and the Islamization of Britain for many years. And he is in prison now on a civil charge of contempt of court for violating a court order regarding covering a trial. And he is in solitary. He just came up and appealed saying that he should not be in prison, should not be in solitary. He lost the appeal. And what I thought was wild about it, David, was that Mr. Justice Johnson, in the LBC report, they, of course, always, whenever I see these British reports, they don't give the first name of the judge. It's Mr. Justice whatever. So this is Mr. Justice Johnson. And he said that nobody is above the law. And so he threw Tommy back into solitary. Meanwhile, we had earlier this month, a promoter of Islamic terrorism is being allowed to stay in Britain despite posting execution videos on Facebook. Right, Mr. Justice Johnson? Nobody's above the law, right? And then we had a convicted al-Qaeda terrorist deemed a danger to national security by police has not been formally risk assessed ahead of his imminent release from a hospital in the UK. So this guy is a danger to national security, and he's going to be released from the mental hospital. And then we had one more. These are all just from the beginning of April. The Metropolitan Police has decided not to pursue charges against an East London imam who delivered a sermon invoking curses on Jews and calling for the destruction of their homes. But nobody's above the law in Britain.
I want to say, as someone who spent quite a bit of time in prison, I never met or heard of anyone in prison for the stuff that Tommy has done. I mean, reporting on a grooming gang trial, and remember, we went through that back in the day when he was locked up before. But we went through that before years ago, and all he did was he was reading an article straight out of the BBC. That's what he did. He was live. He's outside their trial, and he's sitting there reading the BBC article. And guess what? That was completely in line. It says you can't be providing new information on the case, which he wasn't. And they threw him in prison for that. I never heard of anything like that. And guess what? They had never had anything like that before. It was always, always, always something you would get fined for. In other words, even if you broke this rule and you let secret information about the trial, if you let it slip, if you leaked it, you would be fined for it. They threw him in prison. And then even more recently, it's, hey, you showed this movie and you won't give us, it was like contempt of court and so on. It's like, I never met anyone in prison who was in there for contempt of court. That's something you would fine someone for. All the stuff they're like, I'm saying this because people who There are people who, anytime the subject of Tommy being in solitary comes up, they're like, "Oh, but he should have, he broke the law or something like that." If anything he did is something you would ordinarily be fined or sued for, not something you get thrown into prison for. But then beyond that, they put him in solitary. As someone who has been in solitary, you lose your mind. There's something about not communicating with people regularly and just being left to your own thoughts, where all of a sudden you run into someone and you're weird. Like you realize it. Like I am not communicating like a normal person anymore. Anyway, so yeah, I would say they are basically torturing him at this point. This is torture.
Yep.
They're torturing this man into compliance.
He's a political prisoner, and it does look as if they want to kill him, make an example of him, or drive him mad. And this will stymie resistance, they hope, to what they are doing to the UK. All right, meanwhile, in the US itself, we have some of these kinds of things going on. We have Ali Akbar Muhammad Amin. Did you hear about...
Yes. One second. Peter Spinney here says, you can be sent to jail for contempt of court. It happens sometimes to lawyers that stand up to the judge. Yeah, Peter. There's a difference between jail and prison. Yes, you can be sent directly to jail from court. So you can mouth off to a judge, and a judge can say it's contempt of court and send you down to jail. Jail is different from prison. Prison is where you are sent long term. That's what I'm saying. I've never seen anyone in prison serving serious time, long term, for anything remotely resembling anything Tommy has done. That's the point. So it seems like they basically want to torture him into not ever saying anything again. And you use this. In other words, let me put it this way. If someone said, hey, this guy, Robert Spencer, this is something that could happen in a bit more dystopic future. Someone says, hey, Robert Spencer just got sent to prison. They finally got him. Now he's in prison. You say, what did he do? Oh, he went 56 miles per hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. And you say, well, why'd they send him to prison for that? Well, I mean, he broke the law. So, okay, I've never heard of anyone going to prison for that. It doesn't make any sense, right? So obviously they're targeting him for some other reason. That's the idea with Tommy. It's the stuff that you're saying he did, and people are going, well, he broke the law. Right? If you grant everything that is said about him, that is something I've never seen anyone go to prison for. That's why it's weird, and it makes it obvious that he's just being targeted for his political views.
Absolutely. All right, where were we? Ali Akbar Muhammad Amin. Where is his message? He sent this message somewhere. Let me see. Hang on. Get all prepared, and then it turns out I'm not. All right. It's here. There it is. He wrote to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, prepare to die, you Tulsi, and everyone you hold dear. America will burn. Ali Akbar Muhammad Amin. All right, so we got that going on. I don't really know what to say about that either, David. There it is.
I'm just saying, it's stuff that's been happening to us forever, and now it's happening to just random politicians.
Indeed. Yes, she said radical Islamist terrorism was the biggest threat the nation faced. This was something that is a big departure from what the U.S. government has said for years. So maybe that's what set him off. I don't know. But in any case, something set him off. All right. Oh, we got Tanya Fernandez Anderson going on, too. You heard about her?
Nope, not a word. Nary a word.
David, what's happening to me tonight? I just don't have the photos that I told myself that I had.
Yeah, it's weird. You normally have those all ready. It's like you're being cursed by Allah.
Maybe it's the gin. I shouldn't have had a fifth of gin before the show.
Hey, a couple of people are saying my audio is low.
Let me see. I'll turn you up a little bit. Yeah, actually, I don't know why, but you are actually low here. How's that? Say something.
Check. Yo.
Is that any better, ladies and gentlemen? Sounds the same to me, but I'm hoping it's better.
Find another show.
All right, that's Tanya Fernandez Anderson. Tanya Fernandez Anderson was the first illegal alien Muslim member of the Boston City Council. And now she's pled guilty to federal corruption charges, but so far has not resigned. And so you can see she's wearing a kind of a hijab here, always covers her hair. But Tanya Fernandez Anderson was highly touted, of course. She did become an American citizen. She was originally an illegal alien, but she became an American citizen in 2019 and then was elected to the Boston City Council later. Seems to me this is an example of electing somebody on the basis of what she is, so they can say, we have the first. You know, we have a Muslim city councilwoman, we have a migrant, and so on, without proper attention to whether she's actually qualified for the job. And this is something that it's a hazard of identity politics, that you get these people in who are not necessarily the most qualified for what they're doing. And so anyway, she's going to go to prison, as a matter of fact. But the Boston City Council is kind of an uproar, because there's no law saying she can't be a city councilman while she's in prison. So
That is correct. One quick question. Someone said there's an echo. Some people are saying it's fine. Other people are saying there's an echo.
I don't know what to tell you, folks. I don't hear no echo. You hear an echo, David?
No,
David,
I hear no echo. But someone was saying sometimes people are trolls, though. They just want you to get sidetracked and start complaining about stuff, so you don't actually know, but it could be.
I don't know.
Urban Infidel says, I hear no echo. Okay, if anyone else hears an echo, Urban Infidel says you are lying and you've been humiliated. All right.
I trust Urban Infidel because Urban Infidel helped publicize a book that I wrote. I'm not sure which. No, I do remember which one, but maybe I shouldn't say that. So anyway, never mind. It was somebody else. All right. Okay, great show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're really rolling.
They're definitely going to come back next week, Robert, after seeing this display of professionalism.
Speaking of a display of professionalism, let's go to our friend Eddie Redzovic and the Dean Show. Do you know that the Dean Center, there he is giving the ISIS salute with his friends. Did you know, David, that the Dean Center Incorporated in Florida got $300,000 in a grant from the Department of Homeland Security?
Nice.
You gotta wonder. $300,000 from the Department of Homeland Security to the Dean Center. And so this is, I'm just sort of amazed by this, David, because did you get money from the Department of Homeland Security?
Not a dime, even though we're the ones who are exposing jihad.
Yeah, my check from the Department of Homeland Security is quite late. I haven't gotten any money from the Department of Homeland Security. I don't understand this at all. And so, really, the Dean Center getting $300,000. And then, the story outlines all these anti-Semitic preachers who they've featured on the show, the Dean Show, or in promotional videos for the Dean Center, like Ibrahim Dramali, who appeared in a promotional video. He said, the Jews control the whole world by money. Ask Allah to give victory to us and destroy these people, not only the Zionists, but those who support these people. Then there's Abdurrahim Green, who's from Britain, who said there turned out to be a Jewish member of the audience when he was preaching in London. And he said, take the Jew over there, far away, so his stench does not disturb us. And so these are the kind of people that Eddie's got going for him at the Dean Center. And the Department of Homeland Security is giving this guy, there they are with look, people will say that's not ISIS, that's just Tawhid. Tawhid being Islamic monotheism. They're just holding up their single finger to show that they are strict monotheists. But look, this is 2025. ISIS has been on the scene for over 10 years. They use that all the time. It is deeply associated in the popular mind with ISIS. Anybody who is doing it now and doesn't know is a fool. And so the Dean Center, it seems like it's not really something the Department of Homeland Security should be given money to. But this was in the waning days of the Biden administration. Yeah.
Yeah, no, make no mistake. Eddie is a lying, evil, absolute scumbag. That is one of the guys. That is one of the guys who's doing everything he can to play his role in taking over the world. And so the fact that the U.S. government or Homeland Security is sending him money. Keep in mind, I don't expect any money from the government, not a dime. But the idea that Homeland Security, whose job is the security of the homeland, gives money to the people who want to violently subjugate the homeland and not to people who are actually defending against that is just stupid and insane.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible, really, that... I mean, what do they think they're accomplishing? Do they think that these guys are moderates and they're going to make the country safer or something like that? It just doesn't make any sense.
No, it's the same like idiotic mentality of their hearts will melt if we're just nice to them, and like in their mindset, you're supposed to be serving them and giving them money. That's your job. They're superior, you're inferior. You're supposed to be handing them stuff and being their servants. And it's somehow in your mind, if we just show them how much we love them and shower them with money, their hearts will melt and they'll be on our side. How many times has that ever worked?
Never.
In 14 centuries. Never.
Not once.
Correct.
And there have been people who tried it. It's in the history of Jihad. And so, also, you've got the thing we talked about a few weeks ago that's from Quran 59:2, that the infidels, Allah makes the infidels destroy their homes by their own hand. And, I just kind of see them down at the Dean Center thinking, this is Allah making the U.S. destroy its own house by its own hand. There they are. Shoveling them hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's just incredible. All right, we got a lot of jihad, actually, David. There was a terrible attack on Palm Sunday. In Nigeria, that's right. At least the latest tally of the death toll that I've seen is 60. It could end up being more, and so that's a big problem right there. But that was not the only one. There were dozens of Christians who were slaughtered at the beginning of the month in Nigeria. There were other attacks elsewhere, and interesting thing took place amid all of that, and that was, let me get the guy here. I know I got him. There he is. That's Sheikh Ibrahim Jalingo. And Sheikh Ibrahim Jalingo, he is saying that the people who leave Islam ought to be killed. Now, this is something that, as you know, of course, maybe it's we already know that Ali Dawa has already given that up, and he's already saying we're proud that we're going to do this. We're going to do it happily. This is not something that Islamic apologists, however, have generally acknowledged. Generally, they say there's no death penalty for apostasy. But Jalingo here, he is very clear about it. He says it's in the Quran, in chapter 9, verse 5 and 489, that explicitly permit the killing of polytheists and apostates. And those, of course, are a couple of the kill them wherever you find them verses. He cites Muhammad saying, whoever changes his religion, kill him. And he says only an ignorant person would claim that the hadith, whoever changes his religion, kill him, contradicts the Quran, which is what somebody there in Nigeria said. In fact, the Quran itself not only permits the killing of those who commit apostasy, but even allows the killing of all polytheists. And he says that one of the favorite verses of the non-Muslim politicians in the West, there is no compulsion in religion. He says, everybody knows this has been abrogated by the verses about killing.
Yeah, and that particular verse, 256, it's interesting. You go to a commentary like Corteby's, and he gives all of the interpretations of that verse held by any significant Muslim ever. No one ever thought it meant what a Muslim today says it means. No one. It never crossed anyone's mind. Why? Because they know what else Muhammad said, and they know what else the Quran says, and therefore it's impossible to interpret the way they are interpreting it today. But yeah, Ibn Kathir's position and the position of many others was just it was abrogated by commands later to fight people.
Yeah. So, well, it's just remarkable the lack of curiosity on the part of these authorities in the West. It's astonishing. Some Muslim, like Eddie Redzovic or somebody like that, tells them, "Oh, we're moderate and peaceful, and there's no compulsion in religion," and they just buy it. They say, "Oh, okay, here's $300,000, and you're good." I don't know, David. I don't know. I'm just feeling like I'm not hitting on all cylinders tonight. Should have gotten Charles Nelson Riley to guest host, but it's too late for that now. All right, we got. Let's see what we can do here. We got another Muslim cleric with another interesting statement. Where is he? Hang on. He's on his way. He's packing his bags. He's going to get here. There he is. Khalid Hanafi. Did you see him?
Nope.
Okay, he is the Minister of Vice and Virtue for the Taliban, for the government of Afghanistan. I expect he gets a little vice in. I mean, how could you be the Minister of Vice and Virtue if all you do is deal with the virtue, So I expect. But he's over there in Kabul. He's got this government position for the Taliban. And he said that non-Muslims, including Hindus and Sikhs, who are, of course, the non-Muslims that he deals with more often because he's in Afghanistan, are worse than four-legged animals. And he said disbelievers carry out administrative work. Polytheists, Jews, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, but they are like four-legged animals. They hold beliefs that go against Sharia and Quran.
Isn't it always fascinating that this group, which somehow encourages the worst behavior of any group we've ever seen, are the ones who say everyone else they're like animals?
Well, where does it come from? Where'd they get this idea? Surely it's not in the Quran.
Oh, it's in the Quran, and it's all over the Hadith as well.
Indeed. Yeah, you got 855, the non-Muslims are like animals. You got 98.6, the non-Muslims are the most vile of created beings. You got 7179 that says, is that the one worse than animals? I think it is.
You got the like cattle. You've got the
like cattle. That's the like cattle one.
And then you've got the ones that are specifically about Allah turning Jews into different kinds of creatures. And it's funny because Muhammad had to figure out which creatures over time, because he somehow knew that Allah had transformed Jews into some kinds of creatures, but he wasn't sure which. And so you have all these weird passages where someone offers Muhammad roasted lizard, and he's like, I don't know, that might be a Jew. That could be a Jew that Allah transformed, and I don't want to eat a Jew. And then he performed this scientific experiment where he said that Allah obviously transformed Jews into rats, because he argued that rats follow kosher dietary laws. He's saying that they will eat sheep's milk, but not camel milk, because camel milk is not kosher. So he claimed that rats show that they are actually Jews who've been transformed, because the rats still are kosher. Follow kosher dietary restrictions. Interesting fellow. We should just build our life around this guy and our entire world, and let any idiot who follows him and decides to slaughter people in his name rule the world.
Yeah, because otherwise would be Islamophobic extremists.
That's true.
You don't want that. That's the worst thing in the world. All right, we got another thing out of the Taliban. Hibatullah Akhundzada, who is the supreme leader of Afghanistan, he carried out some executions last Friday in a sports stadium. I don't know if they play sports in Afghanistan anymore, so they got to use the stadium for something. And so they got the executions going there. And so Hibatullah Akhundzada, he says, we must carry out disciplinary measures, perform prayers and acts of worship. We must enter Islam completely. Islam is not limited to a few rituals. It is a comprehensive system of all divine commands. So he's saying the executions, this is part of Islam. You can't negotiate this away. You can't ignore this part. You got to do all the Islam there is, and that means you got to kill the people too.
What can we say?
Well, he must be an extremist, am I right? Because he's the Taliban. And so surely there must be some Islamic understanding of this that contradicts him, right? Everybody in the West assumes that.
I was just thinking, wow, spot on.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're right. I mean, I don't know of any. I would love to see somebody, one of these Islamic apologists in the West, contradict all that and say no, and make a Quranic case for freedom of conscience or something like that. But those never show up. Not only do those never show up, but nobody ever seems to notice or care. They just say, oh, the Taliban, they're extremists, and let it go at that, as if all the other Muslims are Jeffersonian Democrats.
That's true.
Yeah. It's just... It's a crazy world. Yes,
and we have found out about all the wonderful, peaceful, democracy-seeking Muslims in Muslim lands every time we take out, a Saddam Hussein or something like that for them, and then we see freedom and democracy flourish.
Yes, yeah. I remember those are the days I was on Fox a lot. I remember during the Arab Spring, I was on this Fox show and. Everybody else on it. There were like 3 or 4 other people they were talking to, Juan Williams and a few others, and they were saying, "Isn't this wonderful? It's going to take them a while to establish their democracies, but it's this tremendous movement of freedom, and we have to be patient with them. Remember that in 1776 we didn't have the Constitution in place. It took 13 years to get the Constitution implemented, and George Washington inaugurated president. So." Patience. And I said, no, this is a Muslim Brotherhood takeover. It has nothing to do with democracy, and none of these countries are going to end up better off. And Juan Williams said that I was fear-mongering. But Juan, I know you're watching tonight. I got to say it. I hate to say I told you so, but I don't really hate it that much.
Yep. It's funny. It's just funny that even built into the thinking, because we pointed out how insane it is all the time. That the mistake that journalists and politicians keep making is they think all people are the same, and it's false. It's completely false. They think, oh, here's how we are. Well, we had a place over here, and what worked for us? Get rid of the dictator, get rid of the tyrant, get rid of the evil King George, and then freedom and democracy will flourish. Mm-hmm. And hey, it worked for us. Therefore, when we look at another part of the world and we say, oh, they've got an evil tyrant, they've got a dictator over there, just get rid of the dictator and freedom and democracy will flourish. That's what worked for us. So that's what will work everywhere else. So you've got an evil guy like Saddam Hussein. Well, let's just get rid of him. Oh, we did. Now what? Oh, they're blowing up each other's mosques. Oh, my goodness. Now we've got ISIS.
Who could have predicted that?
Yeah. See, guys, let me break it down for everyone. Sometimes you have a tyrant and he's being a tyrant over a bunch of people who would really like freedom and democracy. And so guess what? Get rid of the guy. Then you'll have a bunch of people who put together a system with freedom and democracy. In other places, you have a tyrant, and he's controlling a bunch of people who want to blow up each other's mosques and slaughter people in the name of Allah. And the reason that they're not doing that is because he's a tyrant who will crush them, and they're actually scared of him. They're terrified of him, and he's able to keep them in line. Why? Because if you cross Saddam, he's going to have tanks rolling into your village the next day, mowing people down. That was enough to keep them in line. All of a sudden, you get rid of the guy that everyone is scared of. It's like having a lion in an area, and you've got wolves. The wolves are scared of the lion. Get rid of the lion. Now the wolves no longer have anything that they're scared of, and they can do what they want. And so that's what happens. You get rid of the tyrant that everyone's scared of, and you say, "Hey, let's put freedom and democracy in its place." And they're thinking, "You guys have no. Are you joking? You think that's gonna scare us?" And then what do you get? You get ISIS. At the end of the day, you get ISIS. And guess what? Any of these journalists, you think, learned a lesson from that?
Not a chance. Nope.
Of course not. Of course not.
They just stopped talking about it altogether. All right, we got so many stupid infidels here. Hey, before we go to the stupid infidels, however...
You're not talking about the people in the chat, are you?
No, I'm not, actually.
Okay.
What's going on in the chat?
No, I thought you were just calling everyone stupid infidels.
Would I do that? There are plenty of stupid infidels out there, but I'm talking...
in the chat. No,
not in the chat. Unfortunately, actually, we should... If this show were really... I don't know even what to say, but the stupid infidels ought to be watching it.
They should.
Then they would learn something. But one of the things about the stupid infidels is that they think they're very smart, and so they don't need to know what's going on.
Yeah, especially if they're talking about all these issues that are related to like the future security of our entire world, and whether their children and grandchildren are going to be violently subjugated and tortured and raped and so on and beheaded. And it's definitely a good field to be completely ignorant of, and yet to keep talking about it always, which is what they do.
Always. Hey, actually, David, let's. Can I ask you a question that was asked me on Monday at James Madison University? Mm-hmm. Now, I answered it. I think I answered it okay, but I'm interested. I think it's an important enough problem that we should discuss it here, because there's so much confusion on this issue. All right, I was there to talk about Hamas. Young America's Foundation brought me. I'm speaking at James Madison University. All these... The same old thing as always, all these articles in the local paper and the student paper saying this terrible guy who's, on the hate list and all this stuff is coming to speak. And so I come to speak. I say that we have to understand Islam in order to understand Hamas, because in the Hamas charter, it says they're doing it because it's all about Islam. They say Israel will arise and remain until Islam obliterates it. That's what Hassan al-Banna said. It's right in the epigraph of the Hamas charter. And they explain everything they're doing about wanting to destroy Israel in terms of Islam. So I explained all that. And one of the questions I got was, why are you blaming Islam for this? And I said, because they do. I'm not making this up. Read the Hamas charter for yourself. And it's all about Islam. And the girl said, I'm worried about that because I have all these Muslim friends who are wonderful, who don't agitate for Hamas.
Yeah, it's the old, if I know someone who doesn't take this stuff seriously, that means no one takes it seriously, and therefore, and that it's not an actual problem in Islam.
Yeah. And so what would you say if somebody came back to you with that, after you just explained about Islam's doctrine of drive them out from where they drove you out from the Quran, that you have to regain land that was ruled by Islam? Hamas quotes this, Hamas acts on this, and somebody says, but wait, I have Muslim friends.
I would say, I would ask the person, are you saying that your Muslim friends are the standard of what Islam is and is not?
That's
that
good.
whatever your friends are, that's what your friends define Islam. It's not. In other words, are you saying that Islam is not? Are you saying in front of the Muslims here? Are you saying that Islam is not defined by what Allah and Muhammad command? Instead, it's defined by what your friends act like. And if so, why are you saying that they are the standard and not some other group of Muslims who are waging jihad? So tell us how you're distinguishing, because normally the way you distinguish between two different groups behaving in different ways, if they all claim to be Muslims or Christians or whatever, you'd say, let's go to your sources and see which group is reflecting what's in the sources. So that's how I would do it. And I would say, when Hamas quotes Muhammad talking about exterminating Jews, they're the ones who are actually doing this from an Islamic motive. And if someone says, what? No, we love everybody equally and we don't want to ever hurt anyone, I would say, okay, you're not in line with your sources. So that's how I would do it. But you're doing things differently. You're saying, no, whatever my friends are, that's what defines Islam. And if Muhammad and the Quran contradict my friends, so much for Muhammad and the Quran, they don't know what they're talking about. Is that what you're saying? I'd probably go in that direction.
That's great, David. Thank you.
Oh.
I thought that that was worth bringing. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to point out, because I just posted a video about this morning. Here's what really creeped me out about the Hamas charter.
Mm-hmm.
So Article 7, in Article 7, that's where they quote the passage about killing the Jews. So it says, the Islamic resistance movement, that's them, aspires to the realization of Allah's promise, no matter how long that should take. The Prophet, Allah bless him and grant him salvation, has said, the day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight the Jews, killing the Jews. When the Jew will hide behind stones and trees, the stones and trees will say, oh, Muslims, ya Muslim. Oh, Abdullah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him, right? So they've got that in their 1988 charter. So there's that. But then the very next article gives their slogan. And the slogan is, Allah is its target, the Prophet is its model, the Quran its constitution, Jihad is its path, and death for the sake of Allah is the loftiest of its wishes. And I'm just like, think about that. They're saying our group is dedicated to killing Jews, but also we want to get killed as well.
Mm-hmm.
That death for the sake of Allah is our loftiest goal. So what do you want? Death for the Jews and death for yourselves. Death. They want death for everyone on all sides. That's like the supreme example of a death cult. But it's just, I don't know. It's just amazing that you have a group that says we want death for our enemies and death for ourselves. Death. What's your goal? Death for everybody, for everyone, both sides. Death. And you got people, oh, what a bunch of great guys. They're freedom fighters. Well, my friends aren't like that, so it doesn't matter.
That's it. That's the level of thinking in America's universities today. All right. I was starting out with the stupid infidels because I got some stupid jihadis here this week. And this comes out of Berlin. Two men, one from Gaza and the other from Lebanon, were charged for an anti-Semitic attack against a non-Jewish man in Berlin. And while they were attacking him, they chanted, and they did not chant Allahu Akbar, David. They chanted, he should die because he is a Jew. Only he wasn't a Jew. Awkward.
No one ever said they were the smartest, Robert.
Yes. I get that a lot, especially in New York City, but elsewhere too. People start yelling at me on the street, hey, Rabbi, and stuff like that. And
just roll with it.
Yeah, I don't bother to explain. Oh, actually, I'm not Jewish. It's
sure you're not Jewish.
All right, back to the stupid infidels. We got Austria, always a rich vein for stupid infidels. We got a elementary school in Vienna where they're supposed to have a Catholic religious education class. And they are taught Ramadan is the most beautiful time of the year. And this little girl, 4th grade class, this little girl goes back home and says, Mommy, why is Allah so great? And she says, what? What's this about Allah? Well, we learned in 4th grade class Allah is great, and Ramadan is the most beautiful time of the year. And she said, look, we worship God. We don't worship the God of Islam, the Allah that they were telling you about. And she went and complained at the school district. But they said, of course, they're just trying to foster diversity and mutual understanding. So I'm looking forward to the Christmas carols or Easter hymns being sung in the local mosque.
No, because apparently they're the same there as they are in the UK. That if you have traditions for the local population, but then you have a new group comes in, for the sake of diversity, the locals have to have to abandon their traditions, and also for the sake of diversity, you have to adopt Ramadan and everything else.
Yep.
And so that's how diversity works. Diversity actually means letting Islam take over.
Yes, and so speaking of letting Islam take over, I happen to have a story about that in Australia, the Lakemba Mosque in Sydney, also known as Masjid Ali bin Abi Talib, it's Ali's mosque, they want to put 4 loudspeakers on the minaret and be the first mosque in Sydney to broadcast the call to prayer over loudspeakers. Now, why do you have to have the call to prayer over loudspeakers there, David? They won't know otherwise?
No, it's another sign of Islamic domination. It's just like praying in the streets and everything else. Everything is for show. Look at us, we're taking over, and this is compelling to the Muslim population, right? So you got Muslims and they're worried about like the avalanche of apostasy and people making fun of Muhammad and so on. But every time you can show them, look, we just took over this road. Look, now we're blasting things over the loudspeaker. It's a show. Plus, as we know from the Hadith, whenever Satan hears that, he starts farting loudly to cover up the noise and so on. So there's that too.
So they have to have the loudspeakers to drown that out.
Well, Satan really has to pass some powerful gas to drown it out. It's like a battle of arms, right? It's like, they just yell it, but then Satan, he passes gas and he's able to drown it out. So they're like, well, we'll show you. We'll blast it even louder. And he's like, well, then I will fart even louder. And so that's how it goes in Islam.
Oh my goodness.
We're not dealing with the top brass. We're not dealing with the top brass here, Robert.
No. This was not a religion that was constructed by great intellects. All right. We have a terrible story out of Uganda. A mother of 6 children was stabbed to death by her Muslim husband after she attended her first church service. Nasimu Mirembe, who has children ranging in ages from 3 to 18, had just become a Christian after hearing the gospel from a friend. And she and her friend were on their way to a church service when a Muslim neighbor saw them. And so the woman who had just converted was afraid that the Muslim neighbor was going to tell the husband that she was heading to a church service. And sure enough, Adamu Mukungu, the Muslim husband, on their way out of the church, he met them and said, "I saw you come out of the church. What you have done is very bad, especially during this period of Ramadan." This has just been reported, but it happened in March. And the friend of the woman said, immediately he started slapping his wife. I started screaming and shouting for help. Mukungu then removed a long knife and started cutting her with it. And she ultimately passed away in the hospital. And so this is yet another indication of the death penalty for apostasy that the Nigerian cleric was talking about, but that so many in the West still deny.
And think about people denying that. I mean, we could show them passage after passage after passage from Muhammad, from all the schools of Islamic jurisprudence over and over again. We can show them Muslim after Muslim after Muslim, scholars and so on, Dawah guys, proclaiming it. But still they have the mindset of, no, my lovely Muslim friend doesn't believe that, and therefore, since my lovely Muslim friend is the final authority in Islam of what Islam teaches, then Islam can't teach that.
Yep, must be a religion of peace. All right. Sorry, I just saw this. You should do an entire show just pronouncing different African names. I do much enjoy pronouncing the African names, but I have to apologize to any African who may be here because obviously I don't pronounce them correctly. But that's true of all the names.
You could have a separate show, pronouncing African names with Robert Spencer.
That would probably get more viewers than this. Like that, I saw some show recently of this French girl, and she's trying to pronounce hamburger, and she keeps trying because she's doing some app, and finally gets it to ring that she got it right, but she's still not saying it even remotely close to the real way.
There was that story about some French princess or something like this, and she said she apparently said she was trying to speak English, and she said the greatest thing in life is a penis, and they go, it's pronounced happiness. It's what she said. The greatest thing in life is a penis.
Oh, I haven't heard that. It goes back to Shakespeare. He makes fun of, I think it's Henry V's French wife, and she's saying Belbo and things like that. That's because she's having a little trouble with the language. But anyway, all right, back to the serious matters here. We got a story, another stupid infidel story out of France. This Muslim migrant from Kosovo, he was carrying a knife and could not provide legitimate reason, whatever that would be, and was sentenced to 140 hours of community service. But this is what really happened. All right, now bear in mind, 140 hours of community service for this. He went to the Metz Botanical Gardens in the French city of Metz, which is near the French city of Yankees, and he saw a woman there, threatened to behead her, started to scream Allahu Akbar, and he shows her the knife. And he's been freed now on a technical error because there was some problem with the proceedings, and so he's out on the streets again. So nothing could possibly go wrong. Everything will be great.
I'm just saying. You said 140 hours community service?
Yeah.
I got 100 hours of community service when I was a teenager for breaking into a place.
Well, this guy pulls a knife, threatens to behead a woman, screaming Allahu Akbar. He was screaming it, she wasn't. And so for the threat of murder, he got 140 hours of community service.
Yeah, I got 100 as a teenager for breaking into a store. So.
Did you threaten to behead anyone?
No.
I don't know. I can't explain it. Meanwhile, also in France, we have this mayor. And you French are going to have to help me out here. Where is he? This is Laurent Briard. And he is the mayor of Vendôme. How do you say it, French people? Vendome with a little hat on the O.
It's Fonfin.
Yeah, that's it. So he's the mayor of that place. And they were going to have a Holocaust remembrance ceremony with these people who were actual Holocaust survivors, very elderly people at this point. This woman who is 92 years old, and she was taken away from this town in the 40s and was in a Nazi death camp and so on. Anyway, the mayor declined to participate because he was afraid of offending the local Muslims. And so he said that the Turkish community might be upset if he appeared at this thing. And so it did not take place. And that is the mayor, Laurent Briard. The Turkish community is now going to become loyal, stable, productive members of French society, right? Because they will meet this gesture of goodwill with reciprocal goodwill, will they not, David?
That's what happens when you show them that you're willing to constantly back down because you're terrified of offending them. That's going to melt their hearts, and they're going to change, and they're going to love you and not think, oh, Allah is delivering these clowns into our hands.
Yep. All right, one more. We got the small town of Datchet near Windsor in England. And the Express story, the headline is "Quiet Little UK Village Ruined by Asylum Seekers Screaming Allah, Allah at Locals." And the story says, a local shopkeeper, Abhi, 24, who came to the UK years ago from India, claims some of the asylum seekers from Pakistan and Afghanistan abuse him while he works. He told the Times, "They abuse me because I'm from India and I'm Hindu. They come in and shout, 'Muslim is good! Allah! Allah!' They come in and say, 'Indian's not good! F Hinduism! It's bad!' They're always coming in, taking food. They don't pay. I personally hate it."
I have to say, Robert, this entire story sounds completely bogus. I mean, have we ever heard of Pakistanis abusing anyone?
Never, never, ever. They're the most
Definitely not in the UK.
courteous and kind people in the world. All right, you got a minute for some super chats here, David?
Yep.
Okay, let's see what we got here this week. We got FWTC Smiley Face says, "God bless you both for everything that you do. Much love from Melbourne, Australia." Thank you. Much love to you as well. And then we have Angel WVM. "Hey, Robert, can I ask a question? I don't know. Can you?"
Well, I have to point out, he just did. It's got a question mark on it. So
Yeah, he already did.
Yep. That was her question.
Thank you. Go to the back of the line now. All right. Apu Bakar El Puff Daddy says, "Blessed Holy Week to you both, Mr. Spencer and Dr. Wood. What would you advise President Trump about the Jihadi government of Syria? Intervention? Sanctions? I don't want any intervention. All these wars, they work out terribly. The government doesn't understand jihad. They don't know how to deal with it. They just end up making things worse. But sanctions, sure, that would be great. Make them fall, empower and protect the Christians and the Alawites. These things might be possible. What do you think, David?"
I would say build a time machine, go back 15 or 20 years, and warn everyone about how stupid our government is going to be.
I'm going to be working on that time machine all week. Angel WVM says, "Thank you for answering my question." All right. Apu Baker El Puff Daddy. "Why don't Islamic countries criticize China over the Chinese Communist government's treatment of the Uyghur Muslims of China? Future military conflict? No, it's two things. One is they don't bother the strong horse. They're afraid of the Chinese. They're not afraid of the West. They think they can beat the West, and it's obvious why with so much stupid infidel stories we got here. They do not think they can beat China right now. That doesn't mean they're going to give up, but they're going to be quiet right now. You don't wage jihad if you got no chance to win. And also, they're making short-term deals with the Chinese. The Chinese are investing in the Belt and Road Initiative, building stuff in Pakistan and so on. They don't want to mess that up either. The money's coming in.
Yeah, and as Robert pointed out, they, for up until the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, Islam just spread and maintained itself by the sword. That stopped working, so then they had to turn to other means, claiming we're victims, we're horrible, we're oppressed, we're horribly oppressed, and so on. Will you just let us in and let us take you over? That only works in Europe and North America. It doesn't work in China. So that tactic of hey everyone, look what they're doing, look, we're victims. The communist government of China does not care if you whine all day long about them. They just don't care. So that only works over here, so they're going to use that over here and not even try it with China.
There you go. Okay, Jack Ray says, "No Salafi solidarity, but maybe a solid Allah." I don't know. What's a solid Allah, David? Is that something from the other shows this week?
Nothing I've heard recently. The closest thing I can think of is it's in the history of At-Tabari, but there's a story about Allah when he creates Adam. Before he breathes into him, he creates him, and it's a copy of Allah. And no one can figure out if this is Allah or a copy of Allah that Allah has made as a statue. And so Satan crawls into the statue. He goes, I forget if he goes in its behind and then out its mouth, or in its mouth and then out its behind, and so on. And then he comes out and he says, this is not Allah, because this thing is hollow, whereas Allah is solid.
Okay, then.
That's how you know it's not Allah. If you can actually crawl out the butt, then it's not Allah.
So he's not the statue in San Francisco.
That's true.
John Davis, I'm Catholic, and I'm ashamed that the Pope is silent about Tommy, Nigeria, people in the UK protesting in abortion clinics. I'm not Catholic, and I'm ashamed as well.
Well, as long as he focuses on the Palestinians, then we're all good.
Mark H. David, even as a psychopath, solitary was hard for you?
That's my point. I'm considered psychologically and mentally tougher than most people, and I actually prefer most of the time just being by myself. I sit in my room and work on my laptop and read and so on. And so I'm normally fine with that. The thing is, even for a psychopath or anyone else, if you're regularly interacting with people, then you're basically bringing your behavior in line with what is appropriate in various contexts. For some reason, and you wouldn't know that this would happen unless you've actually experienced it or witnessed it. For some reason, tossing someone into a cell without interaction with other people, you just quickly you're just relying on your own thoughts and so on, and you just quickly lose that ability to constantly be checking your behavior by bringing in line with what is appropriate and so on. And all of a sudden you start interacting with someone after just weeks or something like that of being by yourself, and people think you're behaving really, really strangely and oddly, and you start realizing, whoa, I would not have talked like this a month ago, but here I am, and I'm sounding really, really weird right now. So yeah, so that's the point. If that's how it was for me, and I wasn't in there nearly as long as Tommy is, so I can guarantee you it is messing him up. And eventually, if they keep him in there in solitary the entire time, and then eventually just let him out, watch how weird he is. Watch how insanely weird his behavior is, and it is going to take him a while. And I have to say, he'll probably never just be back to completely normal. But watch him when he gets out. He will be weird.
Keep him in your prayers, friends. This is a serious thing. All right, AP says jizya. Thank you, AP. You see? Mm-hmm. Even AP pays the jizya. Susan Lee, can't wait to be a dhimmi. I don't know. I don't know if you're talking about yourself or if you're talking about some of the stories we were dealing with at the time that you sent that. But in any case, yes, some people certainly can't wait to be a dhimmi.
Hey,
yeah.
Hey, we should start that, Robert.
What's that?
We should make a show, like a game show, a fake game show called "So You Want to Be a Dhimmi," right? And it's all these Westerners who are trying to appease Islam. It's like, so you want to be a dhimmi, right? Okay, come in here, and we'll have a couple Muslims, and they're going to treat you like dhimmis and so on. And they can that'll be fun. Show them this is somehow what you're really after. You're a bunch of sadomasochistic weirdos who just want to be flogged by these guys or something.
Yep. Jack Ray, so the Taliban executed people in a stadium when they wouldn't play ball? Haha. All right, Tina L. I'm analyzing child marriage by country versus religion and sect. Stats first, then laws. Wish me luck. Sunnis deny they do it, but Bangladesh in top 10. What a shocker. Good. More power to you, Tina. Hope it works out well. Grumpy Granny says, ooh, super chat. Share. Thank you, Grumpy. I'm pretty grumpy most of the time myself. Cynthia Ridgely says, please discuss taqiyya. Taqiyya is lying in order to deceive the infidel and make him think you're on his side when you're not. It's based on Quran 328 primarily, but there are other verses as well that are involved in it. 16106 comes to mind. But it's not just it started out as a Shiite practice. Taqiyya is a Shiite term, and it's very important in Shiite theology. In Sunni theology, it does not have this name, and they deny it on that basis, and they fool a lot of infidels by saying that's a Shiite idea, and then people like Spencer and Wood claim it's through for all Muslims, but it's based on 328. Mm-hmm. And why don't you take 328, David?
Yeah, so that's straight out of the Quran, and so basically early on in Islam it applied in two different ways. One, if someone was threatening to kill you or persecute you because you're a Muslim, you could deny that you're a Muslim. You say, what? Muhammad, I don't believe in that guy. And then so they were fine with that. They were fine pretending not to be a Muslim. The other thing is in Surah 3, verse 28, it's not denying that you're a Muslim to avoid being persecuted. In 328, it's covering up your intentions and your hostility towards other people because you're outnumbered. So in 328, it's telling you can't be friends with non-Muslims, but then it says, unless it's to guard yourselves against them. In other words, if you're a minority, if you're a tiny minority of the population, and the unbelievers around you are stronger than you, and they'd get suspicious if you start announcing, hey, we're actually going to subjugate you guys are the worst of creatures, you're garbage, and so on. If they're more powerful than you, then you can pretend to be friendly towards them. You can pretend to be friendly. And so notice that's in the Quran. So Sunnis and Shias believe in the Quran. But it did become more associated with Shia Muslims because Shias historically tend to be the minority. And so they had to use it. And then eventually you find out, oh, these Shias are pretending not to be Shias. So they'll pretend to be Sunni when they're Shias in order to avoid being persecuted by Sunnis. And then over time, it just becomes, oh, that's a Shia thing, even though it's, as Robert pointed out, straight out of the Quran.
Flipper says, the fact that so many Muslims misunderstand the Quran and Hadiths in exactly the same way qualifies as one of the scientific miracles of Islam? Sure, why not?
It is. It's the greatest proof.
Rick Newton, Figs Boy, says, take my jizya before they try to make me a dhimmi. Just kidding, they will never get it. Jesus is Lord. Good. Amen. Keep it up there, Rick. The second Shaitan says, sup, D-dubs? Say, do you have a plan to destroy Dawa?
Do I? I got about 19 plans to destroy Dawa.
Above it are 19.
Yep.
All right, Holy J03. Is that Job? Also, David, I had a dream you and Ape did a secret live stream, but ended up sleeping through it.
That's what we call a nightmare.
Yep. All right, Connor says, I'm in college and said Islam evil. One girl immediately got mad at me for spreading misinfo, but then she said she had never read any Quran or Hadith. Of course, you can't read Quran and Hadith and get this idea. Keep the fantasies that they teach you in college. Friend Dogs, a pixelated hippo chomps on a 1-up. Thank you.
Hey Robert.
Yes.
I just remembered something from years ago, but I always thought it was funny. When that person said he had a dream, but this was years ago, and my wife and I both had a nightmare at night. So we woke up, and I said, I had a nightmare, and I said, I had a nightmare too. She goes, oh, what was yours? I was like, all these people were trapped in this, we were all trapped in this old house, and there was some toddler in there who was like Chucky, but it's not a doll. It was a toddler and was going around killing everyone with scissors. And the little toddler's like indestructible and stuff. And is like crawling out of the ducts and vents and stuff like this, just stabbing the crap out of people and stuff. And I got to try to deal with this toddler and hold him back and not kill him because it's a toddler, right? And so anyway, I was telling her this story, and I said, "What was your dream?" And she goes, I dreamt that I bought a bag of onions and brought it home, and that I already had a bag of onions.
Yeah, there's a Charlie Brown comic like that, where Linus and Charlie Brown are looking up at the clouds, and Linus is saying, I see all these intricate things he's explaining with tremendous detail and tremendous artistic verve. And then Charlie Brown says, well, I was going to say I saw a ducky and a horsey, but never mind. All right. Infinite Oneness says D-Dubs, Whitebeard Sheikh, who sits on Ali Dawa of Mojab, was proposing to 19-year-old Reaver. Did you guys happen to come across that video?
Nope. Wouldn't surprise me, though.
I don't know what that's all about, but that's probably better.
Yeah, 19-year-old. So this guy's into older women by Islamic standards.
All right. Well, that concludes the Super Chats. Thank you all for helping us out here. Thank you all for watching. Apologies for not being on the story tonight. I'm getting old or something. But anyway, it's been great. We will be back with more jihad. If there is more jihad, maybe they will all decide it really is a religion of peace this week. But if not, we'll be back next week. Until then, pray open, don't worry.